I think there's a long overdue shake-up, and a shake-up is a good thing. And there are lots of deep-seated problems in society that are coming to the fore and that are hopefully going to be sorted out, and that need to be sorted out. And I don't think it's movements like Black Lives Matter that are pressuring people to go on unconscious bias courses and this kind of stuff. What they are focusing on is conscious bias. It's police racism, brutality, murders, really serious problems. And I think, ironically, it's probably white liberals who are virtue signaling and acting in this kind of performative way, which is it definitely seems to be catalyzed by ideas like white fragility and the kind of original sin theory of racism, that people seem to feel they have to performatively repent. And I do think, and where I think I agree with Claire, is that becomes then, it's kind of actually reinforcing a lot of division. But I think the censoriousness is coming from a more corporate culture, an aversion to risk, and again this kind of like performative view around discourse, which I think comes from social media. Twitter completely reinforces vitriol, hatred, call outs. It's kind of like sassy way of engaging with people, to put it lightly, and it does not in any respect kind of rewards like learning from each other or disagreeing, just actually disagreeing. We've all got something to learn from each other. The fact that discourse is in such a vitriolic place is disappointing. And yeah, I mean, like Claire said, the response to the Harper's letter, which could not have been a more vanilla, anodyne argument for better discourse, open debate and free speech, that it's become this kind of vortex of call out and cancellations is a perfect representation of the problem in so many ways.
No, I think that's so right. I mean, I haven't obviously gone through all the metrics, but it's a rarity indeed that you get involved in a Twitter spat that ends up with somebody tweeting saying, actually, fair point, I've never really considered that. I hadn't really looked at it from that side of the equation. Nobody ever says that. It's just not configured in that way. But Silkie, what's your kind of thought on what's the remedy for this? Tell us a little bit about what Big Brother Watch has been doing, particularly over the course of the lockdown, the concerns that you've raised about civil liberties specifically being clamped down on in recent weeks or months. But what's the solution to this? How do we try and get back somewhere to a free, expressive society in which, matters of substantive disagreement can be considered to be taken by people in good faith and with sincerity?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to just say quickly then about the free speech work that we've been doing. We've actually been working on a report for almost 2 years on online censorship. And it was nearing completion when coronavirus happened. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with that yet. I'm just going to make a small point quickly about free speech campaigning in the UK. There's no funding for it. And this is a really critical problem. And I really loathe to talk about NGO funding. It's like a really boring thing to talk about, but it just has to be said, because if people want to understand why the discourse in this country around free speech is so skewed, it's because all of the funding that goes into organizations that typically protect freedom of expression is geared around misinformation and disinformation, and actually putting in controls around online censorship, safetyism, etc. There is no kind of institutional support for actually just free speech. So that's a major problem, and that's something we're currently struggling with as well. The bigger picture on civil liberties at the moment in the UK, if it's optimism you were after, I was the wrong person for you to speak to, because it's not good. I mean, it's currently, okay, so today it's a criminal offence to go on a protest. It's unheard of in this country that you can be criminalized for going on a demonstration. You know, you can go and work on a construction site, you can go, you know, to restaurants, etc., but you cannot go on a demonstration. And this is the kind of overhang of the lockdown regulations, that the lockdown from day one has never ever been in place with parliamentary approval. Parliament has been swerved at every single turn. You've now got parliamentarians talking about Parliament being used as a rubber stamping exercise. It's been made a mockery of, and this is completely true. And you kind of have to pinch yourself that we found ourselves in this situation. I've been wondering, is this how all autocracies start? Is with the sense that it's for the greater good, and well, it's okay because we're us and we'll be safe. We have now slipped into autocratic rule under Matt Hancock mostly, which is pretty weird. Then you've got obviously extremely oppressive legislation, very far reaching, like the Coronavirus Act. We pushed for a review of every prosecution under the Act. 100% of the prosecutions under the Coronavirus Act have been unlawful. 20,000 fines have been issued to people during lockdown for breaching lockdown. A huge portion of those will be unlawful, and for all sorts of things. We've been charting the policing that's gone on in the last few months. We've seen things like people being told to go home for doing the wrong type of exercise, people being told off because they're out for a walk wearing jeans, which suggests they're not doing exercise. People going out to the supermarket to get something non-essential because it's like a dessert or wine. Some truly nuts stuff. Disproportionate amount of the fines have gone to people from Black and minority ethnic backgrounds. It's a similar kind of story. I think we've dug into a really bad place with oppressive policing in the country. Where do we go from here? We're doing monthly reports to Parliament and trying to stir up some pushback in Parliament, because that's desperately needed. You know, like I said, the fact that this has never had the biggest loss of liberty, the hugest suspension of human rights for decades and decades, and there's still no kind of parliamentary oversight or scrutiny of it. So we're trying to increase that through doing monthly reports, which people can find on our website. If you want a rundown of what the hell just happened in the last 3 months, we've got a video called 100 Days of Lockdown in the UK, which you can find on YouTube. We fought really hard for we fought really hard for an amendment to the Coronavirus Act to allow Parliament to vote on it sooner, because unfortunately it's designed to basically stay in place for 2.5 years or longer. So there will now be a vote in September on the Coronavirus Act. I would just say we've got to stay terribly vigilant about this, because there's been a massive coup, a huge swing towards executive power. It's gone quite badly so far, and it looks set to only get worse.